Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. Crime news in Trinidad and Tobago dominate our top stories in today's edition for Monday, 22nd January 2024, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. The main story, though, Criminologist advises authorities to upgrade the model of policing to address the new wave of gang violence in Trinidad and Tobago. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Criminologist Dr. Randy C. Prasad says while another state of emergency will not solve crime, there is need for a new model of policing in Trinidad and Tobago. He tells TV6 gang violence must also be addressed. TV6's Nicole M. Romani reports.
Dr. C. Prasad explains that a major contributor to the escalating homicide is the gang warfare.
Gangs are responsible for about 45% of the murders that occur. So if you could deal with the issue of gangs properly, we could almost chop the number of murders in half.
The opposition has called for a state of emergency to be implemented to curtail the crime problem, a suggestion the government has rejected. On Wednesday, Dr. C. Prasad explained that a state of emergency will not help the problem.
Unequivocally, no. A state of emergency doesn't deal with the crime problem. It leaves the crime problem intact. What we need to be thinking about is how we improve police detection rates, how we provide reintegration and rehabilitation services to inmates so when they come out of prison, they don't join gangs, they don't go back into crime.
The criminologist tells us while the police have been doing their best, there is need to modernize their strategies. Dr. C. Prasad said there are so many deficiencies that can easily be fixed.
Let's say fingerprinting. We still use the old method of dusting when we go to our crime scene to try to lift fingerprints. And quite often you will see officers go to our crime scene and they come away empty. And the reason is that method is archaic, it's outdated, it's inefficient. There are much better methods out there right now that could lift fingerprints from surfaces that would have been much more difficult to do so, like porous surfaces and so forth.
He said, we can use technology, for instance, the biometric system. Nicole M. Romani, TV6 News.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says the government has been looking at all options to deal with gun violence and other forms of violent crime in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, but says that his administration does not believe that a state of emergency is something that is the best option at this time. The Prime Minister spoke on the matter as he responded to criticisms in the public domain about the inability of the government and opposition to hold anti-crime talks. Joel Brown of TV6 News has more.
Those who are sitting down when the night come and bring out the guns that they acquire to go out there and try to frighten and kill people to make a living of criminal conduct will not stop what they're doing because I am talking to somebody or somebody's talking to me.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley addressing a post-cabinet media conference at Whitehall on Thursday as he responded to criticisms in the public domain about the inability of the government and the opposition to hold talks on legislative solutions to fight violent crime in particular.
But there is value in the officers of state and the parliament being able to talk with the hope that we could find common ground to make changes or to introduce action that would give the state's interests greater strength in dealing with those who choose crime and criminality as their activity.
The Prime Minister then made reference to the opposition's inaugural anti-crime town hall meeting on Monday night, where a call for a state of emergency was supported by opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Dr. Rowley reminded the media about the lockdown of much of the economy from 2020 to 2022 during the COVID pandemic.
Now that we have rebuilt the economy and we are getting back on our feet, those who actually carried out a state of emergency to fight crime is prescribing that to handcuff and monitor the local economy with a failed approach.
The Prime Minister said the government has to consider the rights of every citizen as he spoke about the state of emergency that occurred in 2011 under the People's Partnership government, then led by Mrs. Persad-Bissessar. He said several lawsuits followed.
And in the absence of appropriate justiciable evidence to prevail in the court, these people suddenly had a supply of state money to buy more guns because they kept winning the cases. Only last week, one of those people won $100,000. Before that, some won $250,000, some won $280,000. I think one won $400,000, something like that. Taxpayers' money. And this is just the payment to the so-called criminals.
The Prime Minister said those costs do not include the legal fees paid by the state. TV6 News sought some clarification from the Prime Minister.
When you hear people calling for it now, is the government's position now the issue of not a state of emergency in general, or in terms of how it has to be approached, if ever that has to be done?
The government has been looking at all options all along the way, and we do not believe that a state of emergency is something that is our best option at this time, because there are a number of downsides to it, not the least of which we would want to do nothing to disrupt the economic recovery that we have been working towards and hoping to experience more going forward.
The Prime Minister said that an all-of-government approach supported by the society will be a key element in winning the war on crime. Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Criminals have got a jump on the authorities in Trinidad and Tobago. So says Prime Minister Keith Rowley. Jewel Brown again of TV6 News reports.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, who chairs the National Security Council, gave an assessment of the challenges that the state is facing in its war on crime, as there continues to be a high level of gun violence and murders in Trinidad and Tobago.
We must admit that the criminals got the jump in the country, because we keep trying to bring the police service up to speed and our security service up to speed. The criminals seem to be up to speed all the time. Right? You know, you wonder how it is that, you know, there's so much accuracy in their shooting. It's because they practice.
TV6 News sought an update from the Prime Minister about the vetted units in the police service that his administration had determined are required to win the war on crime.
Special investigation.
Yes, work has progressed with that. We have made some progress. We are working very closely with the United States authorities. As a matter of fact, a team from Trinidad and Tobago is leaving for Washington. I'm leading that team next on the 28th. We're going to the United States to have a 2-day session, a series of sessions with a number of United States officials who are important to us in matters of this and other nature. So a lot of work is going on with that. We are fortunate we have an ambassador who works very closely with us now and is very eager to help us over some hurdles.
And while the Prime Minister reiterated his government's concerns about some aspects of the police service, he also said there are some good officers at work, as he made an apparent reference to the murder toll in 2022.
While we are traumatized by the 600 people who were killed, we also must take note that there were people who put their lives on the line to take away almost 1,000 guns from people last year. Don't forget that. Because the people who go to these armed people to take away their guns, they put their lives on the line. Sometimes they lose it.
Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
CARICOM's Implementation Agency for Crime and Security Impacts continued its series of regional workshops on cybercrime and cybersecurity, with a session held at the Koi Resort on 16th and 17th January 2024. Glenn Bard of SKN Newsline in St. Kitts and Nevis reports.
Impacts is on a mission to sensitize member CARICOM countries about the risk of cybercrime, with the objective of reducing national cybercrime risk and improving cybersecurity across the region. According to an SKNIS report, Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew said cybercrime was important to the country's development and urged the country to take cybersecurity seriously. He said, quote, "Governments cannot do it alone. It needs the partnership of private companies to strengthen the cybersecurity and resilience of the critical services and technologies on which citizens depend. Therefore, we must have a collective responsibility to respond and protect our critical infrastructure. CARICOM Impacts is providing the necessary leadership for addressing cybersecurity issues. We must continue to build and strengthen cooperation in the region so that we can effectively prepare for and respond to such risk." End quote. Regional cybersecurity development is being spearheaded by Impacts, with funding assistance through the 11th European Development Fund. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
A former PNP member of Parliament, Joylan Silveira, was taken into police custody in Jamaica in connection with his wife's murder. Police are confident that they have a strong case. TVJ's Dwayne Anderson has more.
Joylan Silveira, the husband of the deceased Mrs. Melissa Silveira, has been taken into custody as a suspect in this case.
A stunning development in the murder investigation of Melissa Silveira. It comes 6 days after she was laid to rest and followed weeks of relative quiet about the case.
Despite public speculation, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, in its commitment to transparency, swiftly launched a thorough investigation to address any concerns of a cover-up. For transparency to be maintained, the matter was reassigned to the Major Investigation Division, MID. Several lines of inquiry were drawn during the investigative process, and having satisfied ourselves that there is sufficient evidence to mount a viable prosecution, as a consequence, consultation was made with the offices of the Director of Public Prosecution, who concur with our findings.
Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey explained a lot of work is being done to find the answers about the case so justice can be delivered to the family of the deceased.
We understand the concerns of the public, and this update is provided to assure that our work is ongoing and focused on seeking the truth. I extend my deepest gratitude to the key stakeholders who have played pivotal roles in the exhaustive and meticulous process of unearthing critical evidence.
And while a multi-agency large-scale investigation is ongoing, the police say they would welcome any information that could strengthen the case further.
We encourage anyone who may possess valuable information related to this investigation to assist us in our pursuit of justice. Your cooperation is critical in helping us to better piece together the puzzle. Your trust and collaboration play a vital role in upholding the values of justice and security that we strive to provide. Together we can ensure that our communities remain safe and justice prevails. If you have any information, please contact our dedicated hotlines at 119-311-811, the Major Investigation Division at 876-758-5048, or visit our nearest police station.
It was initially reported that Mrs. Silveira died in her sleep of natural causes on November 10, 2023, but an autopsy report revealed that 3 bullet fragments were found inside her body, prompting the police to elevate the case to a murder investigation. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.